Welcome to the deep dive, where we extract the most important insights from key materials to give you a genuine shortcut to being well-informed.
And today we are tackling something huge.
We really are. It's one of the biggest organizational challenges of, I think, our time, leading through this persistent, almost bone-deep uncertainty.
It's just a constant state of flux, isn't it? Every
Mhm.
leader we talk to is grappling with it. A market defined by rising rivals, geopolitical instability.
And regulations that seem to change overnight, the pressure is just
It
relentless.
is.
And that brings us to the core question. When all that external pressure starts mounting, when the foundation feels like it's shaking, what's the default response?
Right. What do we actually see happening in leadership teams?
Exactly. Is it that sort of blind reactionary panic, or is it a deep, unwavering conviction? That tension is really the heart of our analysis today.
And for this deep dive, our source is incredibly focused. We're pulling key principles from a text called Purpose Over Panic, Leading Through Uncertainty.
Specifically from an address in that text titled The Unshakable Board. And our mission here is to move past the abstract. We want to extract the concrete, the actionable principles this document lays out for leaders for maintaining strength and clarity when the outside world is just pure chaos.
We're trying to define what the source calls leadership that is stronger than the storm.
Let's start by just, setting the scene. The source acknowledges the reality of these threats. It's not downplaying them.
Not at all. It talks about industry giants aligning their forces, these disruptive competitors who are literally rewriting the rules.
And those sudden regulatory storms that can just sink an entire business segment.
Yeah, and on top of all that, the psychological part, the internal whispers of doubt that can just paralyze any kind of
It
decision-making.
really sounds like a full-on siege, and I think that's what makes the very first insight here so powerful. The text just immediately challenges that executive instinct, the one that says you have to treat every single threat as this existential catastrophe that needs a frantic pivot right now.
Right, and that is where this idea of conviction comes in. The document states it so plainly. It says, not every opposition is worth fearing. Not every plot has power.
That's so counterintuitive, though. It's basically asking leaders to perform triage on fear itself.
It is.
But I do worry a little. I mean, focusing on purpose over panic, doesn't that sound like you're just delaying necessary, maybe painful strategic decisions? If your rival launches a product that undercuts you by 20%, you have to react, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. You must react strategically. But the source argues that those external forces, they can't fundamentally break a team that's standing on a foundation stronger than strategy alone.
Stronger than strategy alone. So what does that mean?
Well, if your identity is purely your strategy, you're just destined to chase the market forever. But if you're defined by your foundation, your purpose, your integrity, this anchored direction, you start to dictate your own terms.
So this foundation, this is what gives you resilience to all that volatility. When the purpose is aligned, what actually happens to the threats?
The source promises that when this foundation is secure, opposition becomes noise, not destiny.
It becomes noise. I like that.
Yeah, the threat doesn't just vanish into thin air, but its power to define your future is, well, it's neutralized.
So like a hostile takeover attempt?
That's a great example.
Yeah.
They can acquire assets, sure, but they can't acquire your culture. They can't instantly replicate a decade of trust you've built, not if your values actually hold true.
That shift from chaos to noise is the key strategic advantage then.
It is.
And it leads to one of the most powerful and honestly fascinating images in the entire text. To illustrate this ultimate confidence, it uses this ancient line, "The one enthroned in heaven laughs." It's such a defiant image of composure.
It's an incredible image. And translating that into modern corporate confidence is, I think, vital. It means having this absolute assurance in your place and your purpose. A team that's grounded in conviction does not panic when others attempt to disrupt.
So you're playing the long game.
When you're playing the long game while your competitors are running these frantic little short sprints.
Okay, let's make that concrete. What kind of decision does this laughing confidence let a board make that a panicking competitor just can't?
It allows for non-reactive strategic patience. So a panicking board, for example, sees a market slowdown, and what do? They immediately slash the R&D budget to boost quarterly earnings.
The classic short-term move.
The classic move. But a board acting from conviction, from that laughing perspective, they understand a temporary dip is just noise. They might even double down on R&D.
Because they know the real advantage is built when everyone else is scared.
Exactly. They're optimizing for the 5-year horizon, not the 90-day news cycle.
That makes the confidence itself a strategic weapon. Okay, so if that's the foundation, let's talk about the leader. If stability isn't based on reactionary strategy, and it's not just about having a big title, where does real leadership actually come from?
The source makes a really crucial distinction here. It separates position from placement.
Position versus placement.
Right. Your position is just your title on the org chart. It's the corner office, the power that HR grants you.
But the real authority, that comes from placement. What does the text mean by that in an operational sense?
Placement is defined by a clarity of mission. And this is the key part. Knowing that your role, your influence, your authority was entrusted for a reason.
Entrusted for a reason. That's a heavy idea.
It is. It's about a mandate that is bigger than the title itself. It means you act with the full authority of the mission, even when that means deviating from the immediate politically popular plan.
Okay, but doesn't clarity of mission just sound like, high-level corporate jargon?
Yeah.
How does an executive in Q4 fighting for their budget actually use that idea?
It gives them a filter. A leader acting from position asks, what does my boss or the market expect of me right now? They're thinking about self-preservation.
Right, the short-term optics.
Exactly. But a leader acting from placement asks a different question. What does the enduring mission require me to do, regardless of the pressure I'm under today?
So that confidence comes with a pretty big responsibility.
A profound one. The text explains this commitment requires the leader to be wise and discerning. They have to be the voice that sees beyond the immediate market noise, beyond the panic, into the long-term horizon.
So placement is almost like a license to protect the mission, even from your own team's panicked impulses.
You've got it. It transforms the leader from just an employee managing a role into a custodian protecting the organization's legacy.
Okay, we've talked about the external threats, but here's where it gets really interesting and, frankly, a little terrifying. The text completely shifts focus.
It does, away from the rival outside the gate.
To the decay inside the walls.
And this is the source's central warning. It's a principle that I think should be on every single board meeting agenda. It states, leadership detached from values has destroyed more empires, ancient and modern, than any competitor ever did.
Wow. Okay, let's just sit with that for a second. That completely reverses how we think about risk.
It does.
It's saying that the vast majority of catastrophic failures are self-inflicted. They're a result of internal compromise, of abandoning your values, not because a competitor outsmarted you.
Precisely. We spend all these resources on competitor analysis, hiring market experts, building defensive strategies. But this source suggests we should be investing far more in just safeguarding our internal integrity.
It's like an organizational autoimmune disease.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
The organization literally turns on itself. It starts prioritizing arrogance over humility, or it chases some fleeting trend instead of sticking to its foundational principles.
Can you give me a practical example? What does this self-destruction look like day to day in a modern company?
It's the slow, fatal drift. It starts when a company that was, say, built on trust and transparency starts to prioritize short-term stock gains. And they do it at the expense of customer safety or quality control.
And the competitor didn't break them.
No. They broke themselves by abandoning the very principle that built their customer base. Once that trust is gone, no strategy on earth can bring it back quickly. The competitor just walks in and harvests the ruins.
That makes internal checkups way more critical than external benchmarking. So to prevent this, the source lays out a very specific mandate for alignment.
And these mandates are all about the how of leadership, not just the what of the mission statement. The leader has to lead with humility, not arrogance. They have to proactively stay aligned to core values, to celebrate the principles that built the organization in the first place.
And humility here isn't just about being polite. It's a strategic defense mechanism against the self-sabotage of ego.
Absolutely. Humility is the willingness to listen, to course correct, and crucially to respect the mission above any personal achievement. The text warns that without that respect, when a leader starts to see themselves as bigger than the organization they serve, the foundation just crumbles.
And no competitor even needs to strike the final blow.
They don't have to. The work's already been done for them.
Which makes your core values a strategic asset, the ultimate firewall. Okay, let's try to synthesize this into an action framework. As the source moves toward, moving forward, it provides 3 specific pairings for the right mindset.
Right. These are the executive tools for applying that conviction when you're under fire. These are the three critical contrasts that define the unshakable mindset.
What's the first one?
First, you must lead not with fear, but with clarity. Fear forces you to narrow your focus down to the immediate threat, which, as we know, leads to poor, short-sighted decisions.
But clarity.
Clarity, which comes from that foundation, that purpose, it allows you to see the genuine opportunity that might be hidden inside all that noise.
Okay, so, for example, a supply chain gets disrupted. A fear-based response is to hoard resources and start blaming people.
Right.
A clarity-based response would be immediate triage and then a proactive search for more diverse, more resilient sources. You're sticking to the core value of reliability.
Precisely. Okay, the second contrast is leading not with reaction, but with wisdom.
Reaction versus wisdom.
Reaction is just being dictated by the market's latest tweet or some news headline. Wisdom is dictated by your long-term mandate and your purpose.
So how does wisdom apply when, say, a major product launch fails unexpectedly? The reaction is to fire the team, scrap the project.
A wisdom-based approach evaluates the process and the principle. Did the team stick to the organization's values of innovation and calculated risk-taking? If the process was sound and it was aligned with the mission, the leader, acting with wisdom, extracts the learning from it and protects the team. They don't punish the failure. They uphold the principle of experimentation.
And the final contrast.
Lead not with ego, but with alignment to what truly sustains the organization.
And that ties us right back to that internal threat we were just discussing.
It's the whole ballgame. Ego seeks personal glory. It demands credit. Alignment seeks the mission's success, and it gives credit to the principles that built the place. It ensures that individual leaders serve the enduring principles, protecting the organization from those self-inflicted wounds we talked about.
That is a really powerful summary of how to execute from a place of conviction. And the source ends with this truly galvanizing declaration about the outcome of all this. It's a real rallying cry.
It is. It promises that teams that are united in purpose, protected by principle, and committed to doing what is right, they just cannot be shaken.
They become stronger than the storm.
Stronger than the storm because they can handle the chaos, and larger than the opposition because they don't get dragged down into that reactive, short-sighted fight.
It really transforms the board from just a group of individuals responding to threats into this unified, principled force acting proactively. And that final line is so definitive, it should be the goal of every executive team out there. The board that stands together, stands undefeated. Undefeated. And not in the sense that they never face difficulty, but because they remain true to their core. They successfully avoid that internal decay that the source says is the real destroyer of great organizations.
So what we've really learned today is that in any field business, nonprofit, government conviction and principle aren't just, ethical nice-to-haves.
No, they're critical strategic advantages.
They neutralize the external noise. When you get that purpose alignment, opposition just becomes noise, and that clears the way for you to execute with real clarity.
And that conviction is defined by humility, by wisdom, and by alignment. And those things override the toxic, short-sighted impulses of fear, reaction, and ego. It's the roadmap to staying strong when everyone else is scrambling. So, as you go forward in your own mission, here's a provocative thought for you to consider, drawn directly from the source's emphasis on value detachment.
That's a good one.
If leadership detached from values destroys more than competition ever could, what is the one principle that built this organization, or your current mission, that is most susceptible to being ignored or abandoned during a panic?
A truly powerful test for any leader today.
The challenge is to apply that clarity over reaction right now and proactively safeguard that principle. Thank you for sharing your sources with us for this deep dive.
My pleasure.
We'll catch you next time.